All right, I'm super excited because today we are sitting down with Jennifer and talking all about what it's like starting a business in a foreign country, that foreign country being France. Personally, I can't even imagine starting a business in the US. She's American. So what made you want to do this?
Well,
And wait, maybe I should start. Why don't you tell us your business? I've been there before, so it's like I'm already in it.
So we're already into it.
Yeah, we're already.
We are sitting at Abricot. It's a cocktail bar with snacks in the 10e arrondissement.
It's super cute. So I actually came here for an event, and it was just so adorable, and I loved it so much. I was like, I need to talk to her.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so we're like a California meets Brooklyn-based cocktail bar. That's our vibe, and we like it to be very welcoming and inclusive, and have approachable but creative cocktails and snacks.
And so why set this up in Paris?
So one of the things that I liked about even living here as an expat, and I had lived here already for almost a decade before I decided to undertake starting a business here. And one of the things I enjoyed about it was actually some of the challenges. I don't know, you would know this as well as I do, but going to the post office becomes an adventure. Whereas, you don't quite know what you're going to find culturally or how the systems work, and you're getting to use your not your native language, and I really enjoyed those pieces of being an expat here. So I think opening a business here in Paris is a little bit like doing that on crack. It's an adventure.
Because people who don't know, if you haven't lived here yet or dealt with things in France, there's so much paperwork for even just the most basic things.
Yeah.
So I'm still stunned by the amount of paperwork I had to do just to open a bank account.
Oh, yes. Yes, that was very true for opening a business as well, and also opening a business as two expats, and I think the unspoken thing is also opening a business as two women. There are a lot of, and again, like, I'm quite fluent in French, but doing legalese and accounting and applying for bank loans in French is a different beast.
What do you think, that if someone is thinking about starting a business, and as you look back on it now, you've done it successfully, what do you think surprised you? Or what was like the most challenging aspect of it?
Well, I'm just going to circle back. I want to answer that, but in order to answer that, I just wanted to circle back and to your question about why I decided to do it.
Yeah.
I think I felt like if I'm really going to live here, this isn't just a year-long adventure like I study abroad. I also want to contribute something to this culture that I've adopted.
Okay.
So that was a lot of why I wanted to bring these flavors from home that I thought could be appreciated. It is a different cocktail culture in California and in Brooklyn, where my partner is from. Not better or worse, but it's different flavors and a different vibe. And we thought that would be something that we could give, not as a substitute for what's here, but as an addition.
Yeah.
And then also as someone who's primarily vegan myself, I felt like that was an area that wasn't quite as developed here, but there's such like an amazing, immense assortment of fresh produce and fruits and vegetables and the open air markets that it just seemed like it was like aching to be done.
Yeah, because there are really high quality fruits and vegetables here. The vegan scene here, it's growing, and it's something that I want to show more.
Yeah, it's different than when we first arrived. It is getting more and more developed, but California's got a good, California really has that down as sort of part of their whole ethos, and there's some pieces of that we can leave to the side, but there's some that I think would go over very well here. So that's part of where this came from.
I love the idea of contributing, something, not just being here and taking and seeing what you can get for yourself, but giving back. So that's great.
Thanks. So then, in terms of your question about the challenges that were unexpected, I mean, I think it's not to be underestimated that this is a different culture. I probably don't have to say this to your viewership, but I'm going to. Like, sometimes the basics, like, there's nothing wrong with it. It's not a better or worse, right or wrong game. But it's a fact. I don't always understand the nuances of how business is done here, and it's incredibly bureaucratic, and I know that that has evolved in certain ways over time due to French history and different challenges, but navigating it was a bigger, longer project than I thought. thought.
So what would you say from the time you decided to start your business to the opening?
Well,
What was
I
that
think,
time frame for you?
goodness, I think the first inspiration around it might have been 2019.
Okay.
But not all of that was the challenges of opening a business here, but COVID.
Right.
The confinements and COVID and the changing landscape of bars and restaurants and then the lockdown. We really had to pivot, and we did a cocktail delivery service during that time.
Oh, wow.
And then from signing on this space after the confinements were over, it was a year and a half.
Okay. Still a significant amount of time.
Yes.
Right? It's not like, you know what, I'm going to open a bar tomorrow.
Yeah, and maybe that's good. I mean, like, there were some advantages to that in the sense of, like, I mean, I guess you could say spiritually, it brings you patience, and it gives you your time to sort of figure out what your brand message is and what you're trying to contribute and the nuances. And then there's a lot of, it needs to be better funded than we thought. It needs to, if you're going to wait that long and sit on things that long, it needs to be, you need to have a lot more perseverance than just an exciting idea. But but that said, it's possible. And one of the things that I think is very cool about it is once you've gone through this sort of hazing of a sort, there are aspects of doing business in France that are really lovely and that are not there in the US, for example, in
Like
the
what?
same industry, like healthcare for your employees. That's an easier lift.
And do you mean giving a mutuelle or just the social security?
Well, even the
that's in
social
place?
security that we pay into as employers is expensive, but it's built in. So we do have a mutuelle, but even if we didn't, there's a sense that your whole team is going to be taken care of by the government, by the community in which you're operating.
And just in case people don't know, so in France, right, there's Social Security, which is not what Social Security is in the U.S. The Social Security is just like the government healthcare, let's say. And then there's the mutuelle, which many companies have, which is just like the healthcare on top of that you get from your company.
Right. So that piece, but then also, when the confinements happened for bars and restaurants, if you had been in business a certain amount of time, the government was covering 80% of what your revenues would have otherwise been. And that was not true in the US, and I think as a result of that, a lot of communities lost a lot of those like small boutique mom and pop restaurants, bars, shops.
And even with that, some places didn't make it or decided to close in Paris, which is sad.
Yeah, it's true. But some of them also decided, like, good moment to retire.
No, sure. Also 100% valid. Also 100% valid.
No, it was a hard time for all of. Yeah, and I think it's right not to dismiss that, but it's nice to know once you're in and once you're established, there are certain protections.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, like, what do you wish you knew at the beginning of this whole process that you learned? Or is there anything that you look back and you're like, oh, that would have helped me out had I...
Well, I mean, I think there are a lot of things that I would do differently the second time, but I don't know how many are specific to our situation and also how many, like in some ways I think I would say I'm glad I didn't know what I didn't know when we started, because it made the perseverance a little easier. If someone said, oh, this inspired idea you've got is going to take you years and you're going to be very confused a lot of the time and you're going to, and frustrated and discouraged, I think I might have said, I'm not as committed to this as I thought.
Sometimes ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, totally. Like, you can only see this far ahead of you. It's like, okay, but what's the next step? What's the next step? So I think I would say to anyone who has that dream, perhaps some of this has been discouraging, but I wouldn't discourage it. I would just say, like, be prepared for the adventure and go in with that spirit. Like, every step may take a little longer or a lot longer than you think. It may be more different than you think, but that doesn't mean you won't get there.
And I would say in France, for me, every step has taken longer than I thought it would take.
Absolutely.
Just like, I remember when I think about going to the DMV, let's say, in the US, right? We might think of it like it's this hellish experience. You're there for hours, just hours of your life. in Paris, you wish you could get something done in an hour.
Yeah, totally. And there's some guarantee at the end that you'll, get to the front of the line.
You wish you could sit there all day.
Yeah.
You wish you could sit there all day.
And that would work.
And that would work. No.
Totally.
In France, so it's just a different mindset. In France, it could be months and months to get something done that you thought you could just fill out this form and call it a day.
Absolutely. And then the flip side of that, that's 100% true. And then the flip side is a culture that really values their vacations. That's why it's hard to get things done. And now when it's my turn to take a vacation, I'm like, oh, all right, the whole culture is receptive to that.
Right.
Sorry, closed for 2 weeks in August. That's
totally respectable. It's part of it. It's part of it.
So it's part of what we love and what we hate. We learn to navigate.
Yeah. That's amazing. And so here we are in this gorgeous space. Did you ever open a restaurant or a bar in the U.S. or was this your first foray into it?
I had opened other businesses in the U.S. Mm-hmm. I had not opened a bar or a restaurant. Fortunately, my business partner she had her own bar and bakery in Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. So she came in with that specific expertise, and is just a genius at a lot of the aspects of this. Her cocktails are incredible. So no, that was the other piece of it that I really bit off a big piece of mango. But having done that, I wouldn't trade it. I love this.
Big piece of mango. And so how does she talk about, I guess, the process then, of comparing
the U.S. to
France?
I think, having done interviews with her before and having heard her respond to that, I think she would have a lot of similar observations to mine. I think she would say that having done it before was less of an assist during those early bureaucratic days than one would think, because it was so different, the steps to take. Certainly now, when you're doing things that every restaurant or bar does, like figuring out your cost of goods sold and your stock and your staffing. Staffing is a little bit different. Labor's different, but there's certainly pieces that overlap. But I think she would say that it's more different than she anticipated.
Right.
But again, maybe that's would she have decided to go into this crazy adventure with me if she had known? Maybe not. But are we both happy we did it? I think we are.
And so
I think it's a lot of fun.
What is it like having staff? Because I've lived in Paris for about 5 years now, and I'm still adjusting, but I think I've adjusted. But I wonder what it's like managing people because the culture is so different. The service industry is different. The expectations are different. And I think, I guess I just wonder what it's like managing a staff in the service industry in Paris, which is known for giving bad service. Anyway.
Well, I think now I have more compassion for some of the reasons that might happen. Labor, in order to pay for this wonderful healthcare system, the labor costs are very, very high. So you don't staff the same way here that you do in the US. You keep it tight, you keep it lean, and I think as a result, I have found at least most of our customers, most Parisians and expats are really warm about that. They understand that things may take a minute longer here than they do in the US because you don't have the same number of people on the floor. I also think, and I don't know how much of this is culture specific or industry specific, we have a lot of lovely bars here, but it is a bit of a fledgling cocktail culture in a sense also, and it's quite collegial. And I wonder if in places like New York and San Francisco, where I've been, and everyone has been nice, but I wonder with more competition letting the market, if it feels a little less like that these days. It's just such a community here. We support each other's bar openings, we support each other's menu launches, and the staff that comes in, sometimes we're if we need someone to do an extra shift, we can trade amongst ourselves. I think that is really, I don't know how specific that is to the French culture per se, but it is something I've noticed about this bar community that I've quite enjoyed so far.
And I do feel like, I think in the U.S. our expectations are different for service versus in France. Like, I don't expect anyone to hover over me anymore. I don't like it.
No,
Even, you know,
it's jarring when I go back now. Where
Yeah,
I'm
when I go
yeah,
back,
I
it's
already told you I like it.
Right. Yeah. Or it's like, yeah, it's true. Your sort of expectations reset, you know, when you're in a place for a while.
Yeah, but now I understand why there might be one server on the floor, whereas in the U.S. it might be one for every 4 tables. You know, someone's covering the entire small restaurant. You're like, oh, that's how they keep themselves afloat.
Right. And how is it, so then, and here too in France, we don't have the tipping culture.
That's true.
And so does that affect, do you think? I mean, I guess the people who work here don't expect tips, so it's not like there's a change for them.
No, you pay them a living wage, and that's expected. And
You
I think
pay them a living wage.
Isn't that amazing?
Strange.
I know, this is wild.
Wow, things are weird in France.
Yeah, so they're not at the mercy of someone's generosity or stinginess that day, or you know, it's yeah, I'm sure it has its pluses and its minuses. You're also not getting that immediate feedback on your performance, but I think it's, you know, I sort of like that.
Yeah, I sort of like that too.
That they can count on something.
And then how has the reception been with, like, so it's largely a cocktail bar, but you do also have some vegan snacks and bites. How has the reception been with, you know, sort of a vegan place? Do you get sort of questions? Are people wanting meat? And how's that going?
I don't know if it would be different if we were sort of a full-fledged restaurant, but I will say for the most part, I don't think most of our client base knows that we're vegan. And if they do, they don't mention it. I mean, we don't make a big thing of it. I'm certainly not hiding it. I think it's one of our differentiating factors that's something to be proud of. But we also, like, one of the things that was really important to us is that you wouldn't say when you got your plate of nachos, this is good for being vegan. You would just say, this is good, or this is delicious, you know, and that's kind of what we were aiming for. It was not the people who, I mean, vegans absolutely welcome. They need more choices. We need more choices.
Yeah.
But it was really meant to be for a much broader audience than that, to start to understand that vegan food and drink can be indulgent and fun, and it's not, you know, it's not inevitably linked to health food. That's fine, but it's you can want to go out and have something that's totally not healthy for you and still be vegan.
And still be vegan. But I also like that you didn't choose to go the super processed route. So it's kind of snack food, but it's not like Beyond Burgers and, you know, stuff like that.
I think that's a lot. That's one of the core values that Allison and I share as well. Is I'm not a big fan on backing ourselves into a corner and saying we're never going to use that. Like, I do eat a Beyond Burger now and then, but I think we just felt like the whole point here for us is like fruits and vegetables and nuts and spices, and like that's all good food that, like, in its own right. It doesn't need to mimic meat in order to be delicious, and it's inclusive food because lots of meat eaters and omnivores also eat fruits and vegetables and seeds and nuts and spices. And like I'd like to think, you know, it's not. It doesn't leave anyone out as long as we are, you know, appealing to their taste buds.
Right. I love it. So, any last things you want to add or say to people who are thinking about businesses in France or thinking about France?
I mean, I'm a big fan of doing it. Like I hopefully have honestly answered your questions. And yes, there were challenges, but I don't regret it. I think I again would just emphasize going in with a spirit of exploration and adventure and curiosity, and knowing things may take a while and you may make mistakes. It's not going to be perfect. And even when you're not making mistakes, it may not go perfectly.
Right.
And allowing that to all be part of, you know, what shapes you into who you are. I mean, even like when we, ran out of money at some point, like we made decor decisions that I'm super happy with. We're like, we're going to do it ourselves. And then it just feels like us. I'm glad we made those choices.
Right.
Or we're going to be a staff of 2 for a while, and now we get to know our regulars. And so I guess my advice would be, if you have a vision, go for it, and then cut yourself a lot of slack as you do it. Right. You're doing something brave. It's,
Right, and it may take a little bit longer. Make sure your budget is together. Hopefully there's no confinement that you need to worry about that slows things down. But
but even if there is, like, there's...
Right, even if it is.
Even if there is...
You can get it done.
you can get it done. And then for people who are watching who don't want to open a business but would like to have a cocktail in France, come. or you know, a mocktail and some nachos or cornbread or
It's true. I had the nachos and I enjoyed them. Actually, the nacho cheese I liked so much that it inspired me to make some later on. I was like, I just need to have more of that. So I made some at home. It's great.
Oh, I'm glad. That is, I mean, that's our aim. That's why we do it.
Yeah. So agreed. So if you're in Paris, definitely come check out Apricot.
Yeah.
And you know.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we don't stand on ceremony here. We want everything to be very approachable, and we want you to feel like you're a welcome.
And it's
welcome
cute.
friend.
It's just a cute little place. So you should definitely check it out.
Oh, well, it was a delight to have your group and to meet you. So.
Yeah, definitely. So if you haven't subscribed, make sure you do that, and see you in the next one.